Good evening and welcome. Tonight we're going to talk about the dreaded check engine light. Never a good thing when that pops up on the dashboard, so I'm going to hopefully give you some answers as to what causes it, what the most common codes are, and what the most common and less common fixes. So that's what we're going to go through. What I'm not going to do is go through the complete list. We haven't got enough time in the week to do that, and so I'm going to go through the most common ones. Yeah, it would take far too long. So yeah, I'll go down my list. If you're watching on live, then please let me know that I'm not just sat here talking to myself. Just pop a little message in the chat to say who you are, where you're from, what car you're driving, and hopefully I'll try and put some specific advice in for things that might pop up for you. If you're watching this on replay, thank you for clicking on the thumbnail. And again, if you've got any questions or codes that come up on your car, put them in the comments and I'll answer as many of them as I can. But please tell me the car that you're driving so that I can put a bit more relevance to the information that I'll give you. So I'll try my best to answer any questions or any comments that you put in there. So I'm going to start off with some really simple ones. Hopefully by doing that, I'll maybe save you some money, some time. And you know, if you ever asked on Facebook groups as to what's caused XYZ code, then you'll know you'll get a million people that will tell you it's this, and you'll end up spending a fortune trying to fix a problem. All right. Hi Steve. Hi Richard. How you doing? Right. Okay. So first one is a really easy one. Cat efficiency. The obvious answer to that is you probably haven't got a cat in there. But if you have got a cat and that's popping up, it could be the secondary cat at the bottom of the downpipe is not working properly, or the sensor, the secondary second lambda sensor or the oxygen sensor in the exhaust is not reading right. Easy fix is a common light that pops up generally when you're just cruising on the motorway. Again, easy. Right, second one. Oh, there we go. Got there. Hello, mate. Oh, hi, Grant. How you doing? All right. Cam sensor. Right. Quite often, this pops up if the cam sensor is faulty. Doesn't always. And what I'm going to talk about is the other examples that I've seen over the years that have caused this. Primarily, it's an earth related issue. The camera sensor has got two wires on it. One of them's an earth, one of them sends a signal back to the ECU. And if the earth on the engine loom is not as good as it once was, then it will sometimes throw that code up, particularly at the high end of the rev range. So I quite often see this when a car's been into the body shop, it's had some work done, the engine's been out, the engine bay's been painted or the manifold's been painted, and the earth points are just not as tight as they used to be, or they've been painted and not been ground back to metal for the earth. So before you change the sensor, it'd be worth checking the earths. Okay, right, next up, MAF sensor. MAF sensor low generally means it's been unplugged. You might have done that through testing things, or the wiring might have been damaged. But you also have another code that pops up from time to time, which is the MAF high, the P0103. So that comes when, particularly on a tuned car, like WRXs in particular, where the standard limit for the MAF sensor in the map would be something like 4.58 volts. And if you put a VF35 on there, pink injectors, STI intercooler, the normal sort of stage mods, and map that up, you quite often find when you're high up in the rev range, you'll be reaching around that 4.6, maybe even 4.7 volts on the MAF sensor, and that will pop up this MAF high code. Easy solution is to just raise that limit in the map. So your tuner or mapper, if you're talking in English terms, will be able to do that quite easily. Right. Next one on the list is the lean code, right? P0171. And these only pop up in closed loop fueling. So what I mean by closed loop is when the ECU is measuring what the air fuel ratio is in the exhaust and judging that against where it should be. So if you put in a bigger induction kit, for example, or an induction kit over the standard airbox, then the reading that the MAF sensor will give will probably run lean, because a small diameter change in that pipe will actually alter the voltage and therefore the amount of air that the engine thinks it's getting, and it will add the appropriate amount of fuel for what it thinks it's getting. So if you haven't changed the induction kit, it probably refers to a leak in the pipework on the inlet of the turbo. That quite often, where the standard hard pipe changes from hard plastic to like a rubberized plastic at the turbo end, that little join there splits, and that would then be sucking in unmetered air, and you would get this lean code that pops up just when you're idling. Quite often it will pop up on cruise as well. So anything less than 30% throttle, that will pop up. It won't affect anything while it's on boost. It's just an annoyance. It just needs the either the leak fixed, or the map or the MAF calibration in the actual map itself to be set up for what the induction kit is. Easy one to fix. Following on from that is PO172, i.e. rich. Again, it could be you've got a different induction setup, or you've fitted slightly bigger injectors or a stronger fuel pump, and it was mapped on a weaker fuel pump. But sometimes it refers to a manifold pressure leak, or a leak on an intercooler hose. So again, check for leaks on those hoses. And if you've changed the induction kit, then obviously get that scaled in properly in the map. Right, next one is a interesting one. Let me just see. Right, let me put that on the screen. Right, you've got that at the moment, Kev. Been told that the map sensor needs rescaling, 4-bar map sensor, and it's running MAFless. Probably beyond what I'm going to cover today, but yes, I would agree. It needs scaling properly and mapping for the map sensor. Right, so back to the Misfire codes. P0301, 0302, 0303, 34. Sometimes these are misfires. You know, if the car's misfiring, then fix a misfire. So spark plugs, coil packs. But if it isn't misfiring, this is often caused by something completely different. These three codes pop up if the ECU cannot cope with the information that it's getting. And the biggest culprit for that is the neutral position switch. On a bug-eye WRX in particular, they're the most common, but bug-eye STIs and some of the early blob WRXs and STIs. If the neutral position switch, which is on the side of the gearbox on a 5-speed and annoying top of the gearbox on a 6-speed, if that little plunger switch, which is kind of like the light switch in your fridge, it's just going in and out every time you're changing gears to say you're in neutral, not in neutral, in neutral, not in neutral. But on a WRX, if that is going on and off, on and off, on and off, and the ECU is getting all these signals, it goes, I can't cope, bang, chucks out 301 or 302. It just picks one of those 4 codes. So you could spend a fortune on spark plugs, new coil packs, and not fix the problem when a 27-pound sensor that goes on the side of the gearbox, really easy to get to, will fix that. On an STI, it's a bit more of an inconvenience because these codes, or in particular the neutral position switch, if it's popping up and saying I'm in neutral when you're actually in gear, when you're in neutral, the ECU says, right, we're in neutral, we don't need VBT. So you'll find that the cams, rather than both of them advancing, both of them will go back to 0, and it will behave like a WRX rather than an STI with a variable cam timing. Really annoying because it makes it feel a lot laggier. More annoying when it's getting these false signals, like one moment it thinks it's in gear, next moment it doesn't think it's in gear, so the cams are doing this, and you'll find that the power feels like it's jerking back and forward when you're on a pull. Really annoying. Hi Kaylin, how you doing, mate? Glad you could join us. Right. Okay, right. Hopefully that the misfire codes are a very common issue on bug-eye WRXs, in particular, bug-eye STIs, JDMs, but they tend to happen around the sort of 80,000-90,000 miles, depending on what kind of usage the car's got. Excuse me. And it's just a simple fix. As I say, on the 5-speed, it's on the side of the gearbox, really easy to get to. On the 6-speed, it's right on the top of the gearbox. Annoyingly difficult because you've got to drop the gearbox down a bit just so you can get a hand on the top to get a spanner to undo that. Subaru actually quote 6 hours to do it because they believe that the gearbox needs to be taken out. It doesn't. It just needs to drop it down. Okay, right, let's go on to the next one because this is also a weird one. Right, the P011 or P0011 and P0021 AVCS over advanced. On an STI, you've got VBT solenoids, which is just like a boost solenoid that just switches on and off, one on each side. And what it does, it diverts oil pressure from the engine into the cam on the front, the inlet cam, and that will advance the timing, the cam timing, or it will retard it back to 0. So where it's saying 1-1 or 2-1, so left hand or right hand, it's just stuck open, basically. So stuck over advanced. Quite often it's either a solenoid that's jammed, and they're pretty easy to replace. There's one 10mm bolt that then just slot out, and you can buy those new import car parts in the UK. I'm sure there's a million places around the rest of the world that will supply you those. Or if it's not that, the oil feed lines that go to that from the front of the head on the passenger side or on the right hand side of the engine, looking at the engine from the front, or on the opposite side is from the back of the head. Inside the banjo bolts that fit onto the engine, Subaru decided that they should fit little oil filters in there. Completely unnecessary, and they've since sent a bulletin to say remove them, because when they block, it stops the oil pressure advancing the cams. So take them out, throw them away, don't need them. The annoying part, the extra annoying part, is on the right hand side of the engine, looking at the engine from the front. The oil fitting for that and where the filter is behind the cam belt covers, so it's cam belt off to do it. As I say, I would start with the solenoids first. Right. Nice picture, Kanan. Chime in with your questions anytime you like, mate. Anytime. I will be covering a lot of the things I think you're going to ask about, but please ask away. And the same with anyone else. Any questions, any codes that have popped up on your car, test me. try me, see if I can come up with the solution that you've applied to fix it. Right, next one. This is one that I had on mind that perplexed me for ages. The knock sensor, P0327 or 328. Really weird one. On mine, on the Hawkeye STI that I had since sold, but on that I would occasionally get this 327, 328 code pop up, and the car would go into limp mode, and you get the horrible pain in your stomach when the check engine light comes up. And I basically narrowed it down to a puddle of water on the back of the engine block where the knock sensor is. And the reason this puddle of water sat there is because I parked the car on a slight slope facing upwards, so the rain would come in the scoop, sit down the back of the engine, and you can drive for hours and that water doesn't go anywhere. It just sits there, and that makes the knock sensor not work properly, and it just popped this code up. It wasn't because the engine was knocking, it wasn't because the knock sensor was faulty, the bolt was torqued up right, and it was just the fact there was a puddle of water there. So jet washing, be sure to get a blower down there and blow the water away from the knock sensor. If you're parking on a hill, park facing downwards. That will solve that. All right, okay. Right. Okay, I will come on to that in a second, Kayla. Right. Okay. TGVs. Please, there's about 12 codes, I think, for TGVs in there. Quite often these pop up when someone's changed the turbo. Because the TGV sensor at the back of the head, on the back of the inlet manifold on the turbo side, is right next to where you're levering to get a turbo away or an inlet pipe away, and it's quite easy to damage that. Or when you're changing injectors, you might unplug it and forget to plug it back in. I've got no idea why they decided that these TGVs are a great idea. They put them on the WRXs first, the bug-eye WRX, the blob-eye WRX. Some kind of pretext that it makes it idle better, but I don't see how that can be the case when the STIs don't have it and they idle just fine. Can't be an emissions thing for the same reason. So my advice, if you've got TGVs in there, is take them out. In their resting state, they're jam shut. If anyone knows what the TGVs are, they're pretty much like a throttle plate in the bottom of the inlet stack that goes down onto the heads. There's 4 little copper throttle plates, butterflies, and you can just remove them. Obviously, it's an absolute pain in the ass because you've got to remove the inlet manifold, split the 2 halves of the manifold, grind off the top of the screws that hold the the plate into the bar that goes through in the middle, and then wind the screws out from the bottom. But taking those plates out, it doesn't matter if the TGV's jam shut, jam open, halfway. It doesn't matter, and you can switch the codes off. Makes no difference to the idling, to anything at the low end, and performance wise, it will actually increase the performance you get from doing a TGV delete. Probably 5, maybe 10 horsepower extra. 10 if you were taking the complete stack and putting one of the aftermarket ones in, for example, or one from an STI that hasn't got the bar through the middle. It's a worthwhile modification. All right. Oh, cracking. All right, loads. All right, Stuart. Hi, mate. Hi. Not a fan of Cobb. Yeah, I understand that. By Tactrix. Yes. Weird it had it on the FOS STI. No idea. Really annoying. Yeah, absolutely right. With the port WRX and the STI, they put them on both, and the hatches and everything beyond. Right. TGVs, obviously a hot subject. All right. Intake NA. Yeah, I'm not sure on the actual benefit of that, Kaylin. I got to 850 horsepower on my Hawkeye STI with a completely standard inlet manifold, not the Spec C long runner one, not NA one, completely standard, but with the TGV deletes in there. Never had an issue. Never felt like it was holding anything back. It was something like 700 pounds a foot of torque as well, although that was cheating with nitrous. So I don't think there is a restriction there, nor a restriction because of the size of the throttle body. Right, let's get rid of that. Right, back to the list. Right, we have got these little bad boys on the Hawkeye, like 2006 onwards. The secondary air pump. There's a million codes that pop up in the ECU. In fact, I think the Forester XT had these from 2004 onwards, but it might have been the year after. But this hairdryer that effectively just blows air into the exhaust valves when the coolant temperature is below 50 degrees. It's just a cheat for the emissions in certain countries. It's not used in the UK. I'm pretty sure it's not used in the US as well. Certainly not used in Europe. It might be just for Switzerland. I have no idea. If anyone knows, please let me know. But it's a cold idle test, but we don't need it. But to remove it, it's an absolute pain. Because the pipes that go down the back of the engine that bolt onto the back of the cylinder heads, you can get to the cylinder 2 and 4 quite easily, but 1 and 3, which is behind the turbo, is impossible to get to. So the time to do that, to take it out physically, is when the engine or gearbox is out, because then you can get to it. But they're easy to map out using the Tactrix and open source software. Really easy to map out, and then you can just unplug it or pull the relay, and it will never come back on again. All right. Right, Canada. Right. Okay. Right. Grant. Okay, on your 2000. Let me put that on there. 2010 WRX STI hatch. Yeah. Yeah, it's annoying, and it takes up space in the engine bay. Doesn't do anything useful. Just bin it, sack it off. Weight saving. The amount of second-hand car dealers that I have contact me to switch off these codes after they've bought in a car as part exchange, where someone's switched off the engine lights before trading it in, and then they research the next day and say, oh shit, you know, it's 1,200 quid to replace the system. Can we switch it off? Yeah, it's easy, really easy. ECU locked with DECODED. Grant messaged me. There is an option for you. Send me an email, duncan@racedynamix.com. I've got a solution on that. There's no such thing as a complete lock. There's always a way in. Right. Okay. Are we finished on that? And probably the last one I'm going to go through today, unless you've got ones. Oh, excuse my. Right. This one I've had pop up a couple of times. Like control module, low or high. I can't remember which one it was, but you're getting in a bit of a panic because you think that it's the ECU that is the problem. But what it turned out to be was the drive-by-wire throttle was faulty and was then giving it a duff signal. Really easy to replace the throttle as opposed to changing the ECU or finding an ECU, getting it coded with the keys. But changing the drive-by-wire throttle fixed it. Never popped up again. So anyone got any other codes that are popping up or that they've had pop up? No. Right. Okay. I think these are the main ones. Oh. P0118 and Bug Eye STI. Oh, let me 118. I haven't seen that one for a while. 118. Okay, coolant temperature high. Coolant temperature high would say to me that there's a earth issue. So has the inlet manifold been off? Right, Eric. Has the inlet manifold been off? Maybe the wire's trapped underneath there, or the pins have been slightly dislodged from the plug, because the plug is behind the alternator. The car will refuse to start, because it thinks it's 120 odd degrees. So it will be fueling for 120 odd degrees of coolant temperature rather than the reality of when you're doing a cold start, where it would normally add quite a lot more fuel. I would say there's an earth issue there. Has the inlet manifold been painted at all? Yeah, it could be that, but I'd probably investigate. Sometimes you get like changing sensors and all the rest of it when it's just the manifold's been off, it's been powder coated, and the earth is slightly, no, not painted. Okay, yeah, in which case, yeah, probably sensor or the wiring on the pin to the sensor. Still stock crinkle, right? Okay, yeah, in which case could well be a dodgy sensor. Yeah, I know that. Okay. I would think I would see whether you can on that sensor. From memory, that's a 3-wire sensor, so there'd be a 5-volt, there'd be a ground, and there'd be a signal. If it's reading high, there'd be a break in the ground wire in the earth. And if there's no earth on there, it will read 5 volts, and that would bring up that code. So if you've got a faulty earth or a pin on the plug that's maybe a bit corroded, I would look at that as far as seeing the solution. Because if you've changed the sensor and it's still happening, then it has to be a wiring issue. Right. No problem, Eric. Yeah, good shout, Stuart. 2 earth points on the end of each manifold, and they earth down at the chassis legs as well. Be a good place to look at that. Right, okay. I haven't seen that PO 118 for a long time. Right, okay. Any other codes that people are seeing? Just looking down the list here. Right, okay. Can I just say, can you let me know what the image quality is like? Because I've just changed from the free version of the StreamYard software to the paid version, because I had a couple of people say when I'm doing the map tables on the screen, it's impossible to read, and totally understand that. I was trying to keep the costs down until the YouTube income actually exists, and trying to make it as best I could. But I've upgraded it now, so it's paid for. Hence, I've got a nice logo up there rather than the StreamYard duck thing. Oh, I haven't gotten prepared. Oh no. Yeah, sorry. So they were tiny, but you got the idea. So I will be using this new format. I'll be adding another camera so that we can focus on a whiteboard for me to do drawings, because my drawings in the software, despite doing our A-level, are absolutely appalling. But you'll see more of that next week. Because next week I'm going to continue on the background knowledge for the mapping, rather than going straight in there and say, right, change this, change that, change that. I'm going to do a session on ignition timing, because it is crucial. So what I wanted to do is make that as a standalone module that explains the benefit of what it does as far as making power, and how the ECU builds the actual ignition timing that it uses, and make power as a result. So next week is all about ignition timing. Okay, that's great. Wampa, hello. That's great. Glad you're enjoying it. The red ones are always quicker, by the way, but you know that anyway. Oh, there we go. Oh yeah, hoodies and t-shirts. Yeah, launched some hoodies and t-shirts. They will. I'm hoping that the channel would monetize this week. It should be by the weekend. Thank you for watching. If because you are helping getting to that stage. But the hoodies and t-shirts are designed. There is a link on the community tab on the YouTube channel. Have a look. If there isn't anything that you like on there, drop me a message, tell me what you want, and I'll make it happen. rather than printing t-shirts and hoodies myself and stocking them up in various sizes and colors, T-Mill produce them on demand. So you place an order, they'll make it the next day, send it out the day after. Really good quality, organic, and I'm pretty sure the prices are pretty good. What else we got there? Right, Stuart and Erica talking. There we go. See at the end of the month. Yeah. No, Richard, they're supply and demand. So order it and they make it. I don't carry a stock of them. So if you like them, please feel free. Every little bit helps as far as giving me some income on this YouTube channel to actually offset the expenses. Right, okay, so next week the live channel, the live session will be on a Tuesday at 8 o'clock, because I had a bit of a mad panic rush trying to get back from the dyno today. It didn't leave me an awful lot of time, so it's going to be a Tuesday at 8 o'clock, and in the meantime there should be a video Saturday morning if I can finish the last part of the filming on Friday, and then get some time to edit it. Hopefully that'll be done. If not, it'll be on Sunday. But thank you for watching. If you have found this helpful, then I'm told that I need to ask you to like and subscribe, but I'm sure you'll know that anyway. And I'll see you next time. Thank you.